It's like, he's like, is this how adults think? Is this what they do? Do they just sit around and watch lava lamps and eat each other's undies?
Hello and welcome back to Tether Radio Podcast, the only podcast keeping you from spiraling out into the infinite abyss. We're coming at you today for episode 17. I'm your host Daniel, and I'm joined as always by my brother and co-host Joseph.
Yo, DB,
What up?
what's up, brother?
Shit. I'll tell you what's up, man. I'm really stoked that this week is over.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's been a long week, man.
Well, don't wish your life away.
Thanks, Mom.
You're welcome, son. Shit just got weird. Clean up your room and stop listening to Nirvana so late.
Yeah. Do you know what that means? When you open the record and the band is flipping you off, they're telling you F you for buying their music.
Oh, brother.
Or was that brother. Foo Fighters?
No. That's Nirvana. That is Nirvana. That is, I mean, totally separate topic. Don't want to derail this, but I was thinking the other day about, we lived through some pretty traumatic musical times, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, Kurt Cobain killed himself. We had the Bradley Nowell situation or whatever, back in the Sublime days.
Do you remember Knoxville? Somebody did
graffiti? That's exactly what I was going to say.
Okay, sorry, go ahead.
Some dipshit, hack kicking pothead. You know what I mean? Some fucking corduroy wearing patchouli son of a bitch. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like literally he had wide leg cords. I know this dude. I mean, I don't know his
No,
name.
dude, he had Jinkos.
But they were wide leg cords. They may have been elephant legs. I don't know. But I know they were wide as hell. He probably had a dread. There was probably a bead in the dread, and I'll guarantee you he had fat tongue airwalks on.
Fat tongue airwalks.
You know the ones I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And anyway, his favorite Flatlander was Rodney Mullen. I could go on.
That's awesome.
And whatever, skate or die sticker on his 92 4Runner or whatever the fuck. But like when Brad Knoll died of an overdose, and they were like, there's this like group of Tennessee kids who were bummed, right? Mm. And somebody spray painted R.I.P. Brad Knoll, like up near Lakeshore. You remember?
Yeah, totally, dude.
Like, fuck, man, this kid is sitting in his room, black light on, listening to, the Bends and just being like,
listening to Santeria and remembering the video that they have a ghost of Brad Knowles.
Yeah, that's exactly right. He just went and that's exactly right. He went to Spencer. He went to Spencer's, bought a candle. He brought a fart machine and a candle.
R.I.P. Bradley Knowles.
He bought a fartinator. That's what it was called.
You're the insultinator.
Dear
you are one big hairy fart.
You are one big slimy fart. You are one sticky booger. So for dear listeners, I know that you guys remember a time before Hot Topic, and that era was the epoch of Spencer's gags and gigs.
I would almost call it a dynasty.
It was. 'Cause I can remember we'd go to the mall and we'd like look for CDs, shop for CDs. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, I bought Helmet Betty, which was a damn fine record.
Yeah.
And then we'd go over to Spencer's Gags and Gifts, because you'd see like, whatever. They'd have like, just
lava
like,
lamps.
Well, lava lamps.
They'd have popular band shirts. They'd have like, whatever, edible undies.
just shit that like when you're 15,
yeah.
you're just like, I mean, it's really informative, just like really, it's like, is this how adults think? Is this what they do? Do they just sit around and watch lava lamps and eat each other's undies? You're like, I can't wait to fucking grow up, Oh man, Spencer's, and there's
cruise by Mr. Bulky's to get some bulk Jelly Bellies and be pounding a fat sack of Jelly Bellies while you're walking around Spencer Gifts.
Dude, that's right. And you know what? Maybe you found you could part with an extra, $1.50, and you just got like a gigantic jawbreaker.
Yeah.
That you could just like, lick on for 5 weeks or whatever.
Exactly, dude.
And I'm telling you, those kids today don't even know. They don't even know what it was like. But anyway, Spencer's Gags and Gifts. Yeah. And the Fartinator, this was what I was going to say. I'll say it real quickly. Fartinator was just I don't even know. I don't think it was a keychain, like a keychain dongle or whatever. I think it was actually like the size of like a Bop It or something,
Yeah, well, no, and you would hit button
like
1, 2, and then 3, and it would string together. It'd do like a random.
That's
you're talking about the fart. Yeah.
Yeah. So the Fartinator just had like a bank of different flatch.
Yeah.
As I remember. The Insultinator was just like a DJ unit for insults.
Yeah.
Insults. So you could just mix it up. And just drop some bombs on your unsuspecting friends, and
Do you have trouble coming up with insults for your friends? I can already hear the pitch.
Are you constantly seized up with teen anxiety, but your fevered brain doesn't work fast enough to come up with witty insults? Well,
what if I was to tell you?
Well, then you just ended up calling people furry boogers. Like, oh, good God, what a letdown.
Yeah. I was really bracing myself.
Yeah, talk about a way to get a fleshy, man.
Yeah.
Like, whatever, man. Fuck you, you furry booger. And then they're just like, man, like we're gonna have to wedgie the shit out of this little tool.
Yeah. Well, speaking of Spencer Gifts and the fact that they cater to the weed community pretty hardcore with their lava lamps, black lights, and black light posters.
I like what you did there, dude. That was fucking verbal pick and roll, and that was impressive, man. And here you go, and there's the alley-oop. Tell us about lobster.
All right, man. Well, I dug up an article from The Guardian. The title was Maine Investigates Restaurant That Gave Lobsters Marijuana. So I was like, damn, I gotta do a dive into this one. So this restaurant in Maine is being investigated because state health inspectors, I guess, stopped by or got some kind of report that the cooks or the cook at this restaurant was blowing marijuana smoke over the lobsters before they would get dropped into the boiling water to, quote, lessen their suffering. So this lobster's getting a nice cool buzz and then fucking,
Wait, what?
Done. So, yeah, dude, she, apparently this lady, Charlotte Gill.
Okay.
She's a state licensed medical marijuana caregiver.
Here's a quote. I feel bad that when lobsters come here, there is no exit strategy.
Are you kidding me? Really?
No, this is a different article. I mean, there is. It's just out the cornhole of a fat tourist.
But yeah, dude,
it's very, very, very meta. But yeah, it's there.
But no, I didn't realize how many states are legal now for recreational and medicinal.
It depends though. It depends because if you're like CBD is legal in Georgia. Right,
gotcha,
like you can, and so CBD is like the non-psychoactive component,
for
right?
sure. Yeah, that's the one that's supposed to be better for like, I guess like neuropathy and stuff.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say, pain management and stuff.
Yeah, but yeah, like
So is she she's she's smoking weed in the kitchen?
Well, I mean, I don't know. I would assume that I don't know what kind of a setup. They don't actually go into how. They were just saying that it was being blown over the lobsters. Now, I don't know if she's got like a fat blunt that she's like pulling on and just like whatever, on the lobsters or what.
Yeah.
Or if she's got a nice little like whatever volcano set up.
Right. But so she wanted to get them high. So that they would be less nervous as they were getting ready to be boiled alive.
But the funny thing is she said she was hoping that they would be able to resume the sales of quote smoked lobster meat by mid-October.
That's absurd.
Pretty fucking awesome.
So did you look up anything to do with the weed laws in Maine? I mean, are they like, is it recreational?
Yeah, it is recreational. Yeah, actually, I did a little bit of digging in it, and so it's ultimately going to be up to the Maine medical marijuana program apparently to oversee this and decide whether or not the cannabis is being used appropriately. Okay. But, which I don't really know how you would argue that would be appropriate, but,
so it's gotten to it's, and we'll move on here. Don't wanna, have this be too much time sink here, but, sure. It's gotten pretty interesting in California, where at restaurants that you really would not expect, there's some, I wouldn't call them fine dining because I don't really patronize a lot of spots like that, but at some nicer restaurants where they will come up to your table, the server will come up to your table and ask if you would like, for $5 extra or whatever, a drop of CBD in your tea, right? Or a drop of like, absolutely. Or a drop of some sort of tincture or whatever. In your cocktail or whatever.
That's so kinda
yeah, well, yeah, man. Yeah, I mean, it's
dude,
I guess if you're on a Tinder date and you're just like y'all twisted up inside and you're just
but the thing is like there's not going to be any kind of like psychoactive property to if it's CBD.
Not for CBD, but
so it's kind of like
these were like THC tinctures too.
Gotcha.
And I don't know if that's the way to refer to a THC tincture, but I know that
it's some kind of oil or whatever liquid form kind of thing.
And I don't think I don't mean to excuse me, I don't mean to I don't want to misrepresent. This is not like this is like happening everywhere.
Yeah. But you've come across it. So.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of an interesting trend. So
well, I'll wrap this one up with the quote at the end of this article. And I want to make sure that I'm quoting the right person. Let's see. A program spokesman, David Heydrich, he said medical marijuana may only be grown for and provided to persons with a marijuana recommendation from a qualified medical provider. Lobsters are not people. I'm glad that
how dare he? Dude,
I know, right?
I mean,
I bet the lobster lobbyists are just going to be like clicking their claws as quick as they can, man.
Yeah, I mean,
because lobsters can't speak, right?
No, they can't.
They're gonna be tickling with their antennae.
They can. They
Seriously.
They can speak, but it's up to you to not talk over them because their mouths are so small that you have to get down there and you have to
It's like one of those old hearing aids that's basically like a reverse funnel.
You have to just be really quiet. And it's like, yeah. The lobster says, before you drop its keister in this boiling water, it's nice to
get a cool buzz.
He's trying to get, this motherfucker's trying to get centered, dude. Like before it's chow time. So we've got this little weed theme going.
Yeah, for the opener, we definitely have a weed theme going.
So don't you hate it when you and your friends come up with a sweet smash and grab scheme, and it just doesn't turn out? Yeah, and you're just you're totally foiled by the display. So break us off a piece of this here.
Yeah, dude, for sure. So I pulled this from some local news in Colorado Springs, Colorado. Apparently this group of teens, which according to this article, this has been one of a string of incidents that are kind of similar to this, like literally steal a car, younger people, they say teens, but they'll steal a car, ram it into like a liquor store or a dispensary or something like that, and just grab a bunch of shit and like run out, kind of thing. It's kind of weird.
This is the hottest teen trend right now.
No, honestly, that's how they make it sound in this article.
Oh my god, I can't.
Dude, it's so ridiculous.
I can't handle that shit. And that there's like some church somewhere that's like, y'all need to be like watching out for your kids here, because now the hot thing.
The hot thing is they get high on Fortnite, and
they'll get. That's right. They get wild on Fortnite, and then they drink Mr. Pibb Extra. Yeah. And they watch YouTube videos on how to hotwire cars, and then they hotwire cars and they ram them into California dispensaries and steal the weed. Yeah. And I know we're in Texas, but it'll be here before you. I mean, it's like, come on, man.
We're on a grease rail to hell, brother.
Yeah, dude. I mean, so anyway, did they try to smoke it or what?
Yeah, so it doesn't look like they had like a follow up to this, but basically what happened was these kids stole a van, drove it into a Colorado Springs dispensary, and busted up the displays inside and took all of what they thought was cannabis from the displays. Well, so once the owner was being interviewed with all this stuff, he was like, yeah, I think they're going to be kind of disappointed, because most if not all of the stuff that we display is not cannabis. It's like oregano and just spices that might look like cannabis. So these motherfuckers just bust in and steal a bunch of oregano, basically. So
I mean, I guess here's what they really need to be watching out for. If there are any just delicious spaghettis that show up at potluck dinners around, where it's like,
you need to watch on like the Colorado Springs like Craigslist of them trying to dump huge amounts of oregano.
or them just being like, made a big ass pot of spaghetti for free. Come and get it.
Yeah.
These kids are just like total optimists.
Yeah.
They get in there and they're like, hey man, life gives you lemons,
Yeah.
Just gotta squeeze them suckers, make you some lemonade there, brother.
But the only other thing worth mentioning from this article was this guy apparently actually saw it happen, and his name was Brent Rathbone. And he was quoted as saying, I was coming out from work, and all of a sudden we heard this big old crash. They came out with bunches of marijuana in their arms, which, okay. But then he said that he decided to call the cops, and they tried to get their plate number, and the teens threw a beer bottle at him.
Oh, dude. Colorado's off the rails, man.
I know, right? I'll tell you, legalize weed, man. It's all downhill from there.
Can you hear this bird in the background?
Huh?
Can you hear the bird chirping?
No, is it going ape shit?
Yeah, well, if you hear a bird in the background, I'm recording this from
your aviary.
from a house that has a couple of birds, parrots.
Oh
in.
yeah,
So,
I forgot they do have some.
yeah, so if you hear them in the background, it's just they just want to kick their opinion into these birds, these smart birds. But all right,
anyway,
man,
we can cruise.
Yeah, let's truck on. This one, I thought this was a pretty fascinating article here. This next one. Mm-hmm. So this is about a Chinese movie star who's been missing for a couple of months, right? And this isn't just any Chinese movie star. This woman's name is Fan Bingbing, right? Mm-hmm. And she is one of the largest. Or one of the most not largest, one of the most popular movie stars in China. Mm-hmm. 37-year-old. She was in Transformers, I believe.
I just looked her up. She was in Iron Man 3, X-Men, Days of the Past.
Excuse me, not Transformers. Idiot. Yeah, X-Men. X-Men is what I meant.
Days of Future Past.
Yeah, I don't know why I was thinking said Transformers, but yes, huge blockbuster, right? Mm-hmm. And this woman, really highly paid, huge presence on social, just a super popular actress in China. Well, she has disappeared, and had totally off the radar. Nobody knows where she is. Okay. Mm-hmm. And there's this speculation. The article that we'll post on show notes is from the Hollywood Reporter. Mm-hmm. And there is speculation that the Chinese government, has actually incarcerated this lady to make an example out of her for tax evasion. Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So there is this concept in supposedly, this is kind of from the research I was able to do, but there's this concept in I guess I don't want to say in Asian countries. We'll say just China, because this is really the only place that I kind of found an example of it. But it's called a yin yang contract, right? Mm-hmm. And the idea is that you basically, when you're paid for something, when you're paid for, in her case, up to star in a film, you might be paid 2 tranches of cash, and you claim for tax reasons the lowest one, right?
Yeah.
And so they're thinking that she may be in custody in China. No one can figure out where this person is. Here's the thing that I thought was really fascinating. So in China, film productions are highly regulated, mm-hmm. right? And not even from the perspective of like the content, not from necessarily the content that's going into these films.
Yeah.
Like the entire process is highly regulated, right? So like a movie star can only make a certain percentage of the whole total budget. Like there's got to be enough room for the supporting cast and the production crew and everything to make their fair share as well. Mm-hmm. And so this is legally managed, right? This is managed through law. By the Chinese government, right? Mm-hmm. And so I think really the kind of angle that I wanted to take on this is that it's pretty far out to think like, if all of a sudden, who's one of the biggest in the United States, like whatever, Tom Hardy or something, right? Ryan
Gosling.
Ryan Gosling or whoever, somebody just disappears, and then they think that they're in custody, like in government, custody and like a lockdown because they're gonna. I mean, it's just like that is a crazy idea. Oh, yeah. I think it just really is kind of indicative of what is kind of happening behind the scenes in China to a certain degree, right?
Yeah.
Like the country is absolutely participating at the highest levels of capitalism around the world, right?
Mm-hmm.
But ultimately, man, I mean the society is definitely under close guard and lock and key to a certain extent.
Yeah.
So I thought that this was really interesting because, again, like, you couldn't fathom that in most places, right? Like that a movie star would be, I mean,
honestly, for lack of a better word, basically kidnapped.
But I mean, that's right, because she's not been officially charged with anything.
Yeah, and I mean, nobody knows where the hell she is, right?
That's right. And local folks that are local artists and local directors and local producers
mm-hmm.
are, demanding that some sort of official statement be issued. And the angle that they're taking is, well, the Chinese government couldn't have done this, so just tell us that you didn't do it so we know. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But which obviously just sounds like a diplomatic way of trying to get, some sort of note on exactly where this person is.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, that's really interesting. And so in this article, they also delve into the recent movie Crazy Rich Asians, which was hugely popular in the United States. And they say that that Crazy Rich Asians kind of undercut itself in China because it really underscores and kind of puts materialism in the limelight.
Yeah.
And that's something that is apparently a big no-no for Chinese popular
just
film.
in like Chinese culture.
Yeah, and popular films in Chinese culture. And so it's really interesting. They were also discussing how makeup companies. There was a makeup company that I can't remember who it was, Maybelline or some massive makeup company that for which this lady Fan Bingbing was a spokesmodel, and that all of these people that had sponsored this lady to be their spokesperson in China have just kind of silently moved on, right? And it's just, you wonder what's happening behind the scenes. Our government officials going like, hey, look, she's going to be tied up for a while. If you want to do business in this country, you better move on.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because they've got billions of people that have more money than they've ever had. And, there's a lot of power in being able to control that much economy, right?
Yeah.
They're the second largest economy in the world, I guess. But,
second largest.
But I mean,
no, I'm just kidding.
Well, I mean, it's that I guess the reason that I wanted to put this up is that in the United States, it's really, really easy to, like, the United States doesn't get everything right, obviously, right? But man, it's really, really cool, I think, and just interesting how much innovation comes out of the U.S. And just kind of how free we are to do a lot of things, right? I mean, look, if you want to evade your taxes, sure, you can do it. And then when they catch you, they're going to drop the fucking hammer. Yeah. And it's going to be like a huge problem. But it's just, I love how, really it is just kind of this kind of cowboy culture, create your own destiny type thing. And in a place like China, even though there are billions of people, this is the second largest economy, on the planet. There's the level of censorship that goes into everything from the businesses that are created to the media that's released to frankly the personal lives of Fan Bingbing and people like that. It's pretty amazing, man. It's it's 2018 and governments are being so blatant about just like shutting somebody down like this to make an example out of them, to like literally have a martyr so that the common people in China or whatever, the middle class in China pays their taxes. Like that's a wild ass thing to think about.
Oh, completely, dude. Completely. I mean, it's just that, like you said, man, in this day and age, the fact that it's, well, and it also, I'll tell you what, it also completely substantiates just the absolute complete difference between Chinese versus American culture, and just it really highlights, in my opinion, how well we have it, kind of thing.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
yeah.
That we don't have to, well, as of now, we don't have to be in fear that like somebody's going to go missing because you stepped out of line, kind of thing.
Yeah, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because I don't think that, I mean, it probably, which I'm sure we'll get into that in regards to like the deep state, and conspiracy theory episode that we've got coming up. But
let me read these last two paragraphs from this article, because I think that they provide a summation that is that's poignant.
Sure.
So this is a quote from this guy named Scott Einbender, runs a group called Crystal Pictures out of LA. Mm-hmm. And it's a production and finance company, and it's backed by this company in China called China's Eastlight Film Co. Mm-hmm. And so this is a quote from him. So there's still a lot of potential upside in doing business in China, but everybody doing business there has to be cautious and has to have an eye on what's going on geopolitically around the world in order to understand how to make movies in China, says Einbender, whose debut film, The Hitman's Bodyguard, was a hit here and in China. Anyone who doesn't is being naive. And then this is the kind of summation here. Ultimately, being on top in China might not be desirable. Wanda Chairman, this is a group mentioned a little bit earlier in the article. Wang Zhanlin was China's richest man, and Fan, was China's highest paid actress in China, right?
Yeah.
Both have been cut down to size by Beijing in the past year, sending a stark reminder of who's really number one in the world's most populous nation, the Communist Party of China. It's wild, dude.
Yeah,
it's wild.
Yeah.
So anyway, we'll throw this up on the show notes, and y'all can take a look and kind of beat it around. But it's interesting, man, and it's these types of things that just like I mean, until I didn't see this in like popular media or whatever. You know what I mean? Like it just seems like that would be something that would be talked about,
Yeah.
But
yeah, totally. I think that it was on. It was like in the less popular articles on like Reddit or something. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. It's like this was not in the media hardly at all.
Yeah, so it was. I mean, you didn't have to stumble too far off the path to find it, but nevertheless, it's just it's an interesting commentary.
Yeah.
So this was a cool article that you posted. There's a teenager in the South Pacific that got into like a Kontiki pickle, right?
Yeah, Kontiki pickle, exactly. Yeah, man. So I pulled this article.
Being the Thor Heyerdahl. Yeah. Okay, go ahead.
So I pulled this article from Gizmodo. The article was Teen Survives 49 Days at Sea in Drifting Fishing Hut. And they actually have a photo of his actual like fishing hut that is basically I would say probably like a 10 or 15, probably 15 by 10 foot raft with a small like hut on it. But anyway, so this guy, his name's Aldi Naval Adalong.
Okay.
I'm probably not pronouncing any of that right, but anyway, it's a 19-year-old that was in charge of lighting the lamps on these fishing traps in Indonesia. And So he had like this string of fishing traps that he had to light these lamps to lure the fish in, and then once a week someone would come and get the fish that he gathered, and then basically bring him supplies and food and clothes and all that stuff. And so apparently he was about 75 miles away from the coast.
Okay.
And literally is using like a rope. Just a rope to tether his little raft tiki hut thing to so that he doesn't go out further out into the ocean. Well, apparently in July they had some really, really strong winds that just put enough tension on the rope to break it, and this Aldi dude floated out into the Pacific Ocean. And so so he's just like literally just floating out in the ocean. They said that he was sucking the moisture out of his clothes to stay hydrated, and apparently he like ran out of supplies like super quick, like within like a week or something like that. And he would catch fish and use wood from like his raft to cook the fish to eat it. And apparently he also crafted a shower out of bamboo. So I mean, he was literally using the stuff that was only on this raft, because obviously he's not going to get it from anywhere else. And like 10 plus ships actually went by him. But I mean, you're probably not going to have like a lookout when you're in the center of the.
You're just not going to do. You're not going to see it.
And it's not going to show up on like. Yeah, it's not going to show up probably on like radars and stuff, because I mean it's a tiny vessel, Yeah,
and I mean, so Daniel and I, just a quick side note. Daniel and I have a mutual friend. This is just a crazy ass story.
Yeah.
But very long, sordid tale short, ended up on this replica of a Chinese junk ship. I mean, you can't make shit up.
Yeah.
Sailing from Hawaii to Taiwan, and this ship. So I went to school in Hawaii for a little while, and this was one of my buddies from Hawaii, and they were T-boned by a container ship off the coast of Taiwan. And so and it split the ship in half, and they all were like went into the water, and the Taiwanese Coast Guard had to come save them and whatever. So the point is that like
well, he was on a straight up like huge ship.
Well, not huge.
Not huge.
He was on a 50-60 foot boat.
Yes, yeah,
sizable.
And we're talking about a 15-foot.
Yeah, so you just don't.
So.
Yeah, you can't. There's just you're just not going to see that shit out there. It's crazy.
Yeah.
And they say like survival experts say that it would be much better, that your chances of survival, would be much higher in a desert than actually in the middle of the ocean.
Really?
Yeah, because it's just in a desert, you can find water. There are animals. You could, potentially make some shade or whatever. Like if you're in the middle of you could throw shade. You could come up with like a hot.
You could throw that turtle on my back.
Yeah, you could come, you could come up with some. You could come up with a couple of bars of hot lyrics and throw shade.
Yeah, for sure.
No, but that's what they say. These pictures are pretty amazing, man. I mean, this kid was like,
I mean, it's crazy, man. It really is. And but anyway, eventually he was able to get the attention of a freighter, a bulk freighter, by using a radio, which I guess he had a radio. But yeah, man. So they pulled him in, gave him food, clothes, and a haircut, and I loved this, man. So they took him to Japan so that they can get him back to Monado, I guess, where he actually lives. But he told the Monado Tribune that he would not work at sea anymore and would work instead on land. I'd say at that point, dude, it would be a very long shot to ever get me even in the ocean again, you know. I can only imagine how I'd feel after that. So
yeah, dude. But anyway. So the next, just transitioning on here, this next piece is kind of a little bit different than takes a slightly different angle than what we typically do here. But it was timely. I think this little piece is timely, and wanted to give. I was just glancing to see if I could give a shout out to the author here. And let me just.
Well, if you wanna start in, I can see if I can figure out.
Yeah, I don't see an author listed, but so this is the website is called 0HP Lovecraft, and it's a WordPress website. And this article, or this short story rather, is from May 11th of this year. And it's titled The Gig Economy. It starts with this quote. I just wanted to read this Thomas Carlyle quote, and then I'll kind of provide a synopsis of this thing. But Thomas Carlyle, the Scottish philosopher, and it says, but it is my firm conviction that the hell of England will cease to be that of not making money, that we shall get a nobler hell and a nobler heaven, right? Mm-hmm. And so what this short story, which is it's fiction, but this short story gets into is this kind of vision of where the gig economy goes from here, right? And it talks about, people, there being just a plethora of apps that are available in this futuristic, kind of made up, fabricated world here. And they're just like a plethora of different gig apps that exist. Mm-hmm. You can do a variety of different, types of gigs and be remunerated for these gigs. And these things are just like random gigs from, going to a parking lot. This is an example they give in here, and signing on to, a Wi-Fi network and sending like an alphanumeric string from this Wi-Fi network to a different email address, right? And it just starts to kind of build this story, starting with these kind of cryptic, odd tasks like I just described, and kind of building them into just this like basically just these kind of crazy undertones of just crimes being facilitated by a bunch of the equivalent of patsies or whatever, digital gig patsies, that are just doing these kind of fulfilling these teeny slices of like a much larger conspiracy for some criminal mastermind, right? And so nobody's got the full view of what's happening, so for them they're logging on to, they're being paid to drive to some parking lot and log on to a wireless network, and they get a little bit of cryptocurrency to do this. And it shows this, whoever wrote this, man, it's just really, it's well organized, it's well thought out. And they show, Reddit posts that are discussing this, right? These fabricated Reddit posts from the future or whatever. Different tweets that are discussing, like, I don't really know what's going on here. What do you guys think? Is this ethical? Yeah. And it really rings true. And so, I think that's one of the reasons that I wanted to bring this up. I mean, the gig economy is flat out, it's not sustainable in current form. I mean, Uber drivers, I'd read this, and I'll see if I can pull this and throw this up on show notes. But if if Uber drivers were looking at like true depreciation costs of their vehicles, if there was kind of a more kind of a deeper dive from a finance perspective, not just simply about cash flow that's being generated, right? But also just, you know, the calculation of opportunity costs of spending all your time driving an Uber around. You know, the calculation, obviously depreciation on the asset, you know, keeping this asset out there, you know, looking at, like, if you were to put together a spreadsheet and say, actually, how much does it cost me to run my little Uber business? They are, you're damn near breaking even or potentially not profitable. And so the magic here with the gig economy is that, you know, you're increasing your cash flow, right? And that obviously this is important for people that are, you know, are cutting it close, right? But if you looked at the, you know, like a P&L, if you will, that was kind of extended over a longer period of time, that running these little businesses, I don't mean to sound patronizing, running these businesses, is not that profitable for a person to say, I'm going to be an Uber driver and that's how I'm going to make a bunch of money, or whatever, that's how I'm going to make my living. And so it's crazy. I don't know if you've seen this in on the East Coast just yet, but these are new in LA. There are these things called Fireflies, and they're like
scooters, are they?
No, it's a company that pays Uber drivers to put this lighted sign on the top of their car, and it's like a digital advertising like sign, right?
So you just like you would pay to just have your business displayed on that for a period of time.
And they pipe, you know, ads. They pipe ads to this network of these Fireflies that are on Uber cars, right?
Oh, gotcha. Yeah.
And then they pay the Uber drivers however much a month to have these things on their cars. So it's just like you can see where the fuck this is headed, man, right? Like you know, you've got people that are just like stacking these you know, these teeny little, I don't know, again, don't mean to sound patronizing, but you know, $100 gigs here, $200 gigs there, the sum of which are enough to, you know, raise your cash flow to the point where it seems to be worth it. But it's just like,
or at least you're able to sustain like living costs and stuff. So it's like, okay, well, if I'm able to do that, then this is successful.
That's
but
right.
It's not like taking in everything and looking at it long term kind of thing.
And that's right. That's right. And I think the strategy really seems to be that you build these networks, and like if you're an Uber, you build these networks, you get people used to using their phone to, for example, hail a car. But then really like the end game is, I mean, you're not doing anybody a favor. Like the end game is not providing employment, right? The end game is this like network of people that are kind of connected and used to interacting in this way. And so then ultimately, if when cars become autonomous, which is, you know, pretty far away, but you just don't need the human element, right? Now you've got this network, and you can deliver packages, and you can advertise, and you can, you know, do this variety of things, a variety of things from this platform that you've created, right?
You just made me think of just a small tangent, but did you see that like Domino's is they were testing out like autonomous delivery vehicles? That it was like it would drive to your location, then you get like a text message or a phone call or something and be like, hey, it's outside. You go outside, you either scan something or like swipe your credit card or something like that, and the compartment with your pizza opens up and lets you get your pizza, and then it closes and drives off.
So I haven't seen that, but what I was following, I mean, all companies are gearing up for this.
Oh,
right?
100%, man.
And Domino's did a really interesting thing a few months ago. They released this thing called Hotspots, right? Mm-hmm. And I mean, dude, dig this. Mm-hmm. Let me just read it from the website real quick. What are Domino's delivery hotspots? Domino's delivery hotspots are our latest and greatest pizza delivery innovation. Picture this. You're enjoying a fun day at the beach when a craving for the ultimate party food, pizza, hits. Until now, you needed a street address to get delivery. With Domino's delivery hotspots, you can have your favorites delivered to a variety of unexpected locations like parks, stadium lots, beaches, and more. And so basically what they do is they set up, these hotspots where people can meet them and pick up their pizzas, right?
I mean, that's a pretty damn good idea, honestly.
No, it's a great idea. Yeah. But like, what is fascinating is that a fucking pizza delivery company is becoming a logistics company. Like, fact, right? Yeah. Like that. I mean, that is, and so now.
But that's pretty much the biggest hurdle with most of merchandising, I guess, right? Is getting the product from the manufacturer to the end user, right?
Well, this is the interesting thing about. So, have you ever heard of the last mile problem?
That sounds kind of familiar, but
in logistics, the hardest, the most complex aspect of delivery is the last mile, right? Mm-hmm. Because if you think about it, container ship comes into the port of Los Angeles, container ship is offloaded, it's a box of widgets headed to Wichita or whatever, that gets put on a truck, the truck goes to Wichita, and now you've got to subdivide this box of widgets to get it to, whatever distribution center in Wichita, who's then got to turn around and like get it directly to the customer, right? Mm-hmm. And so the last mile is typically the most expensive and complicated part of delivering. Well, this is the interesting thing about pizza companies, because basically that's all they do are these last mile deliveries. And so what I'm saying is, like, think of a pizza company as, they create the product and then they are the distribution center and then they must solve the last mile problem. And this is like, I don't have any of these numbers in front of me, but that's one of the reasons that I would say that pizza companies like Papa John's and Domino's and whatever, I would say this is just a massive resource suck, to figure out how to get this shit to people, because it's like every single delivery is like an endpoint to endpoint. There's no, you cannot further subdivide the distribution, right? Like, it is literally the pizza comes out of the oven and you must take it directly to the person, So anyway, I mean, just zoom out and you're just starting to see, companies organize in a way that will be beneficial for, this kind of new tech driven, solution set that will, seek to solve these problems that we've always had in logistics or whatever. But it's really, I don't know, to kind of pull us back to center here. The gig economy is a race to the bottom. Things like Domino's hotspots and whatever, the reason I brought that up is I just think it's indicative of this kind of larger turn that most companies are taking, right? To kind of to embrace technology that everybody has, to make these problems of yesteryear more solvable, I guess. But I mean, ultimately, man, I don't know. Like, does it make sense to have Domino's like dedicated pizza delivery people when you could just plug into the Uber network and say, like, hey, now you've got these fireflies on your car. How about we put like a warming oven in your trunk, and like whenever you get a ping, we pay you $2 and you come by the Domino's, the Domino's store that's in zip code, and you pick this up, and on your way, and there's like active routing between that and your next ride, and then you take the ride, you drop the ride off, you drop the pizza off. I mean, it's just like you can see this shit happening. It is happening.
Yeah.
And so what's unfortunate is that it's going to be built on the backs of you know, a certain group of people that maybe are saying like, wow, this is great, I can work whenever I want. Mm-hmm. But it's like, dude, these companies, they're not, I don't know.
They're not charities.
They're not charities, and they're not creating.
Yeah.
I think the shitty part is they're not really creating the opportunity. What they're doing is they're commoditizing.
Mm-hmm.
They're commoditizing they're taking people's time and they're commoditizing it in a very specific way. And but the definition of commodities is a race to the bottom, right?
Yeah.
And so it's just there is no differentiation in pricing in a commodity, right? And so anyway, it's just interesting because until machines are fulfilling a lot of the roles necessary for this quote gig economy, you're just it's just a race to the bottom, man. And again, we'll let me kind of pull it back to center here. I would really suggest that folks that are listening just take a read on this article, and you know, shoot us your thoughts. But it's just really it's fascinating because we are seeing a sea change in the way that our economy fundamentally works, like much in the same way that there was just such an amazing sea change from the 19th century to the 20th century, you know, with you know, steam power and electricity and, you know, all of these amazing innovations that came about at the turn of the you know, 20th century or turn of the 19th century. And we're seeing this kind of happen just at a different scale, dude, because those technologies were interesting, but this shit is exponential.
Yeah.
And it is, so it's, I think there's going to be, you know, more opportunity than ever before for people to like, you know, come up with a different way of positioning, you know, their skill set to make money. But at the same time, it's like a cautionary tale because, man, I mean, you know, Postmates and Uber and, you know, Firefly and, you know, whatever. They are not, they ain't worried about you, right? And so just this kind of race to the bottom is just going to be really interesting because I think this kind of, I hate to string these two words together because you hear them all the time, but this dystopian view of the future, I don't know that it's going to be as fucking bleak as this article makes it out to be, but certainly a cautionary tale. And I thought people would dig it, so that's why we threw it up there. So
yeah, well, anyway. It's just something to kind of keep on your radar, man, because it's, you know, I feel like there's no such thing as being too informed. So
well, and I mean, look, man, you and I are big fans of technology.
Yeah.
Like technology will absolutely set human beings free. I mean, frankly, I think the more that we lean into tech, the more of kind of our own humanity we get back.
Yeah.
And I say this because it's like, I don't care who you are. Is the best use of your time standing behind the cash register at a KFC? Like, fuck no. And your time, because you're a human being and you get 70 years here and then you're never coming back again.
Yeah.
Your hour is worth more than $8.50.
Yeah.
Now that being said, it's like, okay, well, what does society do with you if like you have deemed that your time is only worth $8.50, which, by the way, that's your call. But if you have said, yeah, my time's, you know, not worth that, it's, you know, I'm not really interested in, you know, doing these other kind of more, you know, human pursuits here. I'm just interested in like, you know, standing here and being bored and doing the thing or whatever. It's like, people are in a position where they could absolutely be brutalized by these technologies. But I think ultimately, like, if we as a society just think really long and hard about how these systems come together, ultimately it might free more people's time up such that they can be, because they're more productive, you know, on a shorter time scale. So then it's like, okay, now you have time to like do the things that make, human beings different than, other animals or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Again, this sounds like we're high right now, but my point is that, that could be one way of looking at it. The other way of looking at it is that we're all like, we all look like Princess Leia, like strapped to our like, our like fat robot master in 25 years. So I don't know, dude. When I hit 40 or 50, if I'm like, in a G-string on a leash, being led around by my robot master, maybe I'll be whistling a different tune.
Yeah.
But, we'll see.
You're strapped to Sammy the server.
Yeah, that's right, man.
Instead of Jabba the Hutt. So.
That's exactly right. But anyway, all right. So let's switch gears here, man. Speaking of labor, speaking of
getting rid of the human element in production.
Yeah. Well, no shit, right? Well, so you're definitely more of a gamer than I am, but give us a little bit of context here, just for those that aren't.
For sure.
That aren't, officially gamers or whatever.
Yeah. So there's a big lawsuit going on currently with the studio Telltale Games, and Telltale Games put out a decent number of like almost adventure. It was basically more narrative based games kind of stuff. So it's like, okay. It's pretty much like you're playing through a comic, and you can choose to take different routes in regards to, do you want to be, a good person versus a bad person versus, do you want to choose one person to allow them to live and another one dies, or vice versa. And so they really, I would consider them straight up pioneers for that style of gaming, or at least they revitalized it for the current generation. Because I mean, back in the day, you had like can't remember I know the game is like point and click adventures, which I'm sure that you remember King's Quest.
Well, like at least like Myst.
Yeah, kind of. Well, so Myst was kind of more of a puzzler kind of thing, but like this is like strictly very like probably 10 to 20% of the game was actual gameplay.
Okay.
The rest is literally you're following your character, you're taking them from point A to point B, seeing how they interact with the other characters and stuff. So it really is. It's just a narrative based kind of action adventure game kind of thing.
Okay.
But anyway, so they basically pioneered it for the new generation, I guess. And they put out stuff like the Walking Dead, the game series, which was pretty popular when it first came out. And they had another game that was it was called like the Wolf Among Us, I think. It was supposed to be a really, really solid game. But this was kind of weird because they seemed like a pretty successful studio, and so it seemed like it kind of came out of nowhere. But then once you start looking into really how the studio was functioning, they were basically just making ends meet with like each game kind of thing. So it was like, I don't know exactly what the term would be financially, but it was like if they didn't score the next deal, then they'd go under.
Right.
Kind of thing.
Right.
So basically that caught up with them, and they had I think they had a deal going with Lionsgate Entertainment for let's see, what was it? I should have written this down. But anyway, they were in talks with Lionsgate, and they had been, I think it was like a $15 million contract, or $15 million contract with them for developing some kind of game that Lionsgate had the rights to. And kind of late in the ball game, Lionsgate was like, no, we've decided we don't want to invest in this, so we're pulling out of the agreement or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Well, so that was like the straw that broke the camel's back for Telltale, and their studio basically collapsed. And so what happened was they had 275 employees, and they basically had this like huge meeting. And while they were in this meeting with their employees, they froze or either removed access to their emails, and like kind of some pretty sketchy shit, to be perfectly candid with you.
Mm-hmm.
And basically said, okay, you guys have a matter of, I can't remember if it was like maybe like an hour or a couple hours to gather all your stuff and vacate the premises, kind of thing.
That's
like
crazy. Where are these guys based?
I believe it's talking about California. They're talking about the California state law, which, I guess San Francisco maybe, because it is.
Yeah, I think
it says that it was filed in.
It's San Rafael. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Cool. Yeah. So, but anyway, so of the 275 employees that they had, they canned 250, just like that. And so that brought up the question whether or not they were violating this WARN Act, which is like the let's see, what was it? It was the Worker Adjustment and Retaining Act of 1988.
Mm-hmm.
And so basically that act more or less said, okay, you have to give, if your company is over 100 employees, then you have to give a 60 calendar day advance notification of plant closings and mass layoffs. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so they define that as like it had to be like more than 50% or something along those lines, like more than 50% of the working staff, and like it had to hit all this stuff. And it does have some exceptions. And the other problem that they're kind of running into, so there were some people that there were a couple of employees that filed a class action lawsuit against Telltale because they said that this was violated. Mm-hmm. Well, they have the WARN Act from the federal level, and then they actually have a little bit more stringent WARN Act at the state level.
Mm-hmm.
And so now they're basically investigating Telltale to figure out if they did violate this. Because I mean, like I said, these people had no clue that they were being fired. While they were in this meeting, they froze all their stuff. And then in addition to that, they were like, okay, you've got, you're fired. You got a couple hours to get your stuff and basically vacate the premises. And then,
Mm-hmm.
you'll have health benefits until the end of the month. Now, this was done, this mass layoff was on the 21st of September.
Mm-hmm.
So they gave them from the 21st to the 30th for health benefits. And I had actually read a couple accounts that there were multiple people that that had either they had moved here out of the country on a working visa.
Right.
That was completely nullified once they got fired, so they have to basically go back to their home country, kind of thing. And then there was another employee that apparently like uprooted and moved from the East Coast to the West Coast, and literally a month later was laid off with all these people.
So how big of a deal is this in the gamer community? I mean, were people just like, what the hell, or was it?
Oh, dude, yeah, like people. Well, and the cool thing about the gaming community is it's actually a pretty tight knit group, especially with developers.
Right.
And so a lot of gaming companies and studios have reached out to the people that got canned and have been trying to either find places in their studios and stuff. Because this was a group of very talented people. Like they put together some fantastic games. But so, I mean, I guess there is a silver lining, but it's still one of these things that it's like, dude, you don't run a fucking company like this. This just seems completely and utterly negligent and just, irresponsible.
It's kind of hard to believe that, you know, I don't know though. I go back and forth. It's hard to believe that somebody would run a group like that. But man, there are a lot of people that just are just, you know.
Well, dude, they're flying by the seat of their pants.
And you put them right, and you put them under pressure, and they fucking time and time again make the worst decision.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah.
And I just think that it's interesting from that perspective, because it's like whoever pulled the trigger on this, I mean, they are going to be hard pressed to continue to work in the industry, I would think. You know,
totally, man, totally.
And so it just seems, because that's again, I'm not into gaming, I think, on the level that you are, but I had just heard that, you know, people were just like, you know, fuck management, man, this is crazy.
Well.
And so it's just in a time where, you know, if you are overheard at a dinner table, you know what I mean, out of context, like it can like ruin your company and ruin your career, right?
Oh yeah, or if you sent a tweet out like
right, I mean
2 decades ago, or not 2 decades, but
10
years ago,
whatever silliness, you know, it's just everybody's looking for something to hate, everybody's looking for something to burn down, you know.
Yeah. Well, and especially it's, you know, with since everybody has such a digital footprint these days, that it's like
what did you think was going to happen?
Yeah, well, and that's the thing, is because you're giving up all this information that is 100% being taken down somewhere.
Yeah.
It's being noted somewhere.
Yep.
And that's not a conspiracy theory kind of thing. That's fucking fact right there.
It is true.
You know? And so it's just like the problem is you have no idea where it's being, you know, recorded.
Yep.
And written down or whatever, and you have no idea who has access to that.
Yep.
And so, you know, it's one of those things that, you know, you end up in a scenario that it's like, whatever, somebody's just trying to dig up something on you and does some quick, you know, whatever, Twitter search, Facebook search. You know, I mean, I remember when Facebook was like at its peak and everybody was just like, man, you got to lock your accounts down because people are doing web crawling searches before for prospective employees.
Yeah.
And so it's like, oh, well, shit, you know, this dude gets drunk, you know, every night or whatever. Do we really want him working for us, you know? He's out partying or whatever every night.
It's just, I just think it's wild that this is what they came up with. I mean, somebody's like back must have really been, you know, against the wall. So yeah. It's pretty wild.
But yeah, dude. So the big thing is they think that they would actually fall under a potential exception, but apparently it's going to be a little bit harder to. An exception for the federal level of the violating the WARN Act, but with the state level, I think that it's going to be a little bit harder for Telltale Games to really defend themselves. They said that they would potentially fall under the unforeseeable business circumstances exception. So because, you know, they had that whatever, Lionsgate pulled funding super late, but I mean, my thing is I still feel like it's just one of those things that it's like, okay, so you're running your company so that if one investment gets pulled, then you collapse.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, for sure.
What? But anyway, so yeah, man. So let's cruise on to the update on Cody Wilson.
Yeah, man. So we had covered this a couple of times. We have covered Defense Distributed and some updates on Defense Distributed a couple of times, and we'll move through this fairly quickly because it was just kind of a note here. But for those that didn't know or haven't heard or whatever, Cody Wilson founded Defense Distributed. Defense Distributed is the company that, I think they're a for-profit company now. They started as a non-profit. But they publish, printable blueprints for firearms. And so anyway, I'm really interested in this project for a number of reasons, less because of the technological possibility of printing firearms, more because I just think it's a really, really interesting time right now in terms of what people are censoring from the perspective of publishers, right? Like what publishers are censoring and allowing to go through. And it's just it's a formative time as we understand technology in the context of free speech and just having, and free access and whatever. And so that's one of the reasons I'm so interested in Defense Distributed. But Cody Wilson, and I think we talked about this maybe even last week, was on some shit sugar daddy meet or something, and ended up meeting up with a 16-year-old girl, and like paying her to have sex with him. And anyway, ended up in Taiwan. Dude has been arrested, he was extradited back to the United States. Even there is not an official extradition policy between Taiwan and the United States. But the United States nullified his travel docs. Taiwan said you're here illegally, extradited him back. He was arrested, and he stepped down as the head of Defense Distributed. So now they've got this super, super sharp woman, Paloma Heindorf, who was in an operations role at Defense Distributed that's now running the group. So I think what'll be interesting is to see – Cody Wilson was a dude who really inflamed. He was just a total character, right? And so it's going to be interesting to see how the company.
He's kind of the Elon Musk of Defense Distributed.
A lot of these founder dudes, which, by the way, I'm absolutely not glazing over the fact that this guy, if he's hooking up with 16-year-old chicks, that is a total different conversation for a different day.
Oh yeah,
that's fucked. But a lot of these founder dudes are eccentric and ruffle feathers, and that's kind of, why their companies are able to get lift in the beginning. And so anyway, I just wanted to mention that quickly as just a side note there. We'll post the article. It's consider the source. It's from the Huffington Post, so it's not, the journalism isn't fantastic, but nevertheless, it's just an interesting little update, as we continue to track Defense Distributed and see what the deal is there. I also wanted to mention really quickly just a couple of before we head into the home stretch here, just a couple of articles that we almost included this week, but I just wanted to turn people on to before we kind of head into the last stretch here. But one of them is this article about Tim Berners-Lee, and I think I sent you this, Daniel. But Tim Berners-Lee is widely credited with being the inventor of the World Wide Web, right? And we talk a lot about decentralization on this podcast. It's just it's a tech that you're familiar with, that I'm familiar with. I've been working in and
in the future everyone will be familiar with.
Everyone will be familiar with.
Right.
I do agree with that. Yeah. I've been working on this stuff since
we're from the future.
Kill yourself now.
Sorry.
But we've been working on this shit since 2014, and so just a big fan of the technology, a big fan of kind of what it means for data rights and whatever. And so Tim Berners-Lee has now thrown his hat officially into the ring with this startup called Inrupt. And it's been stealth for 9 months, and now they're coming out, and it's basically they're providing a platform for you to be able to maintain data ownership, right? So I think we'll try to get into this on a later podcast, but I wanted to mention it because it's relevant and it's happening now, and we'll see if we can throw up an article on that. And then the other one that I wanted to get everybody to track is Tesla and Musk, because we've been talking about this also. Man, let's do a prediction here quickly.
Yeah.
So Elon Musk announced that he's going to step down, right? This happened yesterday. He steps down. Tesla either goes private and he becomes the CEO again, or they end up becoming an acquisition target because of so Tesla has a huge catalog of kind of like basic components necessary to build electric cars, including drive shafts and transmissions and things like that they already sell to big car companies, right? Traditional car companies. And so anyway, wanted to get people to track that one as well. But
so is Tesla's main stuff actually like, is it car parts or actually cars, or do you have any idea?
I don't know. I'd have to. Yeah. I mean, this is publicly available. I'm sure we could look at their income statement and get a pretty good.
I'll take a note, dude, because I'd kind of be interested to know what their main revenue, where it was coming from, kind of thing.
And we could definitely get. I mean, they're a publicly traded company. We could get a pretty. Things can still be extremely obfuscated, even with publicly traded companies, but you can get a pretty good indication of where their business comes from. They supply a lot of the basic. Again, the big thing with electric cars is the torque, right? And so they had to redesign transmissions and drivetrains, right? And drivetrains for these cars because they were just
because they're like one gear, aren't they?
They're one gear, and again, the torque that comes out of these machines is just insane, right? And so they had to design their own tech to do that. They sell a lot of that technology on, and of course Tesla is like eyeballs deep in energy storage as well. So I'm sure we could take a look and see what the deal is there. But I mean, I just think it's interesting because Tesla is definitely one of the fabled companies of the past 15 years, right? Elon Musk is a very interesting guy, definitely a visionary type dude, and so it's gonna be I think pretty cool to see what happens. I mean, obviously this was a misstep with his tweets that got him in this mess in the first place, but just wanted to put that on everybody's radar because news cycles move quickly. I'm sure we'll cover it in the future, but wanted to just kind of touch base on that. So
yeah, dude.
So here we go into
the home stretch.
Into the home stretch, and this next article. Did you see? Okay, just before we reveal the nature of the article, did you see this picture of this like scrub? This is
dude. Honestly, this picture. This can't be from recently, right?
I think it is.
Because literally, this dude looks like the lost member of like fucking Van Halen, and like.
Yeah, I mean, his heyday was definitely a time. Well, the other thing
who's the guy that sang something? A thorn. Every rose has its thorn. Or something.
Oh, well, it's Poison.
That's who the fuck it looks like.
yeah. This guy could be the lead singer of Poison. I don't know his name off the top of my head, but he's not. His name is Maurizio.
But he's not.
His name is Maurizio
Bret Michaels.
Zanfanti. Yeah, Bret Michael.
This is Bret Michael. No, I'm just kidding.
Maurizio Zanfanti. And like Maurizio Zanfanti, this son of a bitch is a piece of work, dude. But apparently, I don't know if he
call him by his true alias,
the Romeo of Rimini.
Yeah.
That I mean, apparently this guy has a bona fide golden dong here, right?
Yeah.
He's Zanfanti. I mean, what's so absurd is like we stumbled on this article, and then it's like they're talking about this guy like you should know who he is. You know what I mean? And like, I don't know. Who gives a shit, right? But this guy, like,
Dude, one of these photos looks like he's eating a bowl of cigarette butts. It's like a black and white one.
So this guy, he looks like, I don't know, man. I mean, his haircut is really interesting.
I mean, he's not attractive. Like, he just must have some fucking, like,
I think he
really intense,
yeah.
Just, he's very confident.
He parties hard, dude. And he's probably got an encyclopedic knowledge of, like, of whatever, of like,
the quickest G spots.
The what?
Said the quickest G spots.
Right. Yeah, no, he's got an encyclopedic knowledge, I'm sure. Of like,
he wrote the book From G Chords to G Spots.
That's right. He was the author of that. And then he also drew the poster that accompanied the book,
Right.
But this guy's just he's whatever. This is a huge lead up for the not a big payoff here. But this guy supposedly, again, this article talks about him like you should know him. But he's Zenfanti, who is rumored to have bedded more than 6,000 women in his lifetime. And they show you these pictures, and it's like he's hanging out with like chicks that auditioned but didn't get like a role in the Spice Girls. Like that's what like these weird necktie tops and stuff,
Yeah,
I mean, it's just really bizarre. This guy is like a really perverted, creepy looking uncle, you know what I mean? Who's just like always like kind of sweaty, and
he's
just
got the meat sweats constantly.
And just like all he drinks is like gin,
Yeah.
And so he wears a bunch of necklaces, and he has bracelets and lots of rings on, and he was rumored to have bedded 6,000 women, some of which look like very, very young. And so anyway, he rose to fame promoting the nightclub Blow Up in the 70s. Okay, all right, this guy. Wait till you see this guy, man. He wears his pants above his belly button. I mean, he rips hard. Yeah. But he died at 63 in the middle of sex, I think. I think that's what this article is.
I think that's the conclusion they came to, man.
And so he was rushed to the hospital, but we lost Zenfanti. So I don't think it's a huge deal. I don't think anybody's going to be too bummed. And I think that these chicks and these pictures were probably promised a lot more than they were. I think that's safe to say. Yeah. I don't know what exactly he said, but I think it's one of those things where maybe you're just, somebody's just like shaking their head and they're just like, God damn it, that's the 2006 Santorini. Boy, I wish I could forget that,
Yeah. Man, that's why I don't drink Bombay Sapphire anymore.
Yeah, right, man. I mean, this guy is just a total, he's just I'm sure he's wailing double neck guitar even as we speak, up on the, the big circular bed with mirrors in the sky or whatever, right? So
yeah.
And anyway, with that huge lead up and we wrap episode 17 of Tether Radio Podcast. And as always, we thank y'all for joining us on this exquisite journey here to out to the news of the bizarre and the news of the maybe not so bizarre, but we have enjoyed hanging with you for this time. Wanted to remind you that if you hate us, love us, have some things to say, maybe just want to send an emoji or whatever, you feel free to do so. And you can hit us up at tetherradio@gmail.com. That's TETHERRADIO@gmail.com. You can find us at Twitter at tether_radio. Our handle is the same on Instagram at tether_radio. And of course, you can find us on Mark Zuckerberg's Facebook prying tool at Tether Radio, TETHERRADIO, all one word. And again, would love to hear your comments, hate mail, anything you want to send. Just send it on over to tetherradio@gmail.com, and we will get right back at you. So this has been a beautiful day here. Daniel, thank you for spending the time also.
Always a pleasure.
I think we got a good one in today. So, Tether peeps, y'all stay tethered, and you come back next week, and we will fill your plates with delicious audio bites that will sustain you through the week. So I am one of your hosts, Joseph.
And I'm Daniel.
And we are reminding you to stay tethered, friendos. We will see you next week.
All right, take it easy, guys.